Okay, another of the videos that I've been privy to see is a guy by the name of Jeff Green talking about the search for other dimensions, and he talks about the Big Bang not really being the beginning of everything, that there are other existences parallel to or together with or prior to the Big Bang. And as such, he wants to say that the Big Bang is not the beginning and the origin of all life, all existence, but rather this is part of this uh, universal infinity of existence in all different kinds of phases. I want to deal with that issue to begin with. The Big Bang does not verify for me the origin of the universe. Jerry Schroeder says it much better than I could ever do that. Up until the 50s or early 60s, all or most scientists believed that the world was a static universe that had existed at all times. There was no beginning to the universe, no genesis. In 1965, scientists discovered the beginnings of the sound of the Big Bang, and therefore the Big Bang was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. That being said, it is not the Big Bang that provides me with the belief in Genesis, the beginning, but rather the whole process of events of time. And I know that this has been addressed by many people, including Stephen Hawking, who has given certain explanations which he wishes to say that things could exist on their own and come out on their own. And I've seen some of the things that he's written around, and I'll tell you honestly, he's a brilliant physicist, but his philosophy is not very compelling. So I'll give you my take on it. I've done this in a previous video, but I want to just show it to you graphically. The reason why I believe that there is an origin, and that the origin has to be a wise and understanding existence from which everything else originates. You can see over here, I have a line over here. That line represents the now. And I'm sorry, the line here is, this left represents now. And that there are lines over here, these are previous events, and you have a B and an E after each line. The B represents the beginning of the event, and the E represents the end of the event. So this represents a string of events which we commonly call time, because time is a series of events, one leading to each other. And then in between, I say, well, what would happen if you went back 1,000 events ago? Would there be a beginning and an end to that event? And you'd say, of course, just like we take a breath and we exhale. 1,000 events ago, where maybe they weren't breathing then, maybe they were in the water, but they'd be stroking. And each stroke has a beginning and an end. And maybe a billion events before then, they were doing something else. They were trying to wiggle around and try to find some carbon or some oxygen, or to get some warmth from some ray of the sun. But they were doing whatever they were doing then, a billion or 10 billion or trillion events ago. And so those events in the past, a trillion events ago, did that have a beginning and an end? You say, of course. It was a movement. The movement started and ended. Well, theoretically then, we could go back infinite events ago, and it would also have an event, a beginning and an end. But that's a contradiction, because you see, the symbol of infinity has no real beginning or end. And so, the reason why everything has to have a genesis is because all the things we conceive about have beginnings and ends to them. They have starts to them. And no matter how subtle the start, Professor Hawking, it still is a start. And if it causes a start, then it itself starts. It'll be an imperceptible start, but it's a start. It has a beginning and it has an end. And if it has a beginning, then there's something beyond the beginning. You see, infinite event ago, there's something beyond that beginning out here. What is it? And the answer to that is that there's a reality that is outside of beginning and ends. There's a reality that just is. What is the reality that just is? Well, let me ask you a question. The concept that 2 plus 2 is 4, is that created? Well, in truth, I believe it's created, but in our terms, in our world, a true concept, a true intellectual concept, does that begin with reality, or is that real outside of reality? Well, my belief is a true concept is real outside of reality. If it is true, if it is a truth, it exists by itself. It doesn't need reality to validate it. Reality will only follow the concept that is true. The concept is not created by the physical reality. And so, God is not a concept. God is the wisdom that creates all concepts. God is the wisdom that conceives of all things and all systems. And therefore, God doesn't have a beginning and doesn't need anybody starting God, because God is the truth of a concept, the truth of the wisdom that causes everything else to be. Just as 2 plus 2 is 4, it does not need 2 rocks or 4 rocks to make it. It exists independently. It doesn't have to be made by something. It just is. So too, God, the ultimate wisdom, just is.